Warning.
Watch very closely now. 3, 2, 1. Bzow! Check that out.
The following podcast features terrible jokes.
You know you can use Hot Wheels cars when you need to make a saving throw in D&D? Every car is die-cast.
Usually about board games.
We want the fun. Gotta have that fun.
Must insist that no one attempt to recreate any joke performed on this podcast.
We had less technical issues than $1 million company.
All right!
This is Boards and Swords.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Boards and Swords. This is a podcast featuring bad jokes, good folks, and some tabletop games. I'm your host. My name's Chris Renshaw, and let me flip it over here and point to that guy over there as my partner in crime, Mr. Philip Herbig.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Monday, the day after Mother's Day. How many people in the chat forgot to call their mothers? I did not.
I did not.
So
No comment.
And that other voice joining us this week, we have Shane from Foundry Virtual Tabletop. How are you doing today?
It is a Monday, going into our 5th anniversary as a company, and busy is how I am.
I can imagine so. And for people that have no idea what Foundry is, what would you say?
Where have y'all been?
Yeah, exactly.
What would I say it is? It's a self-hosted virtual tabletop software, which makes it a little bit easier for people like you and me to play their D&D games, Pathfinder games, various other system games, Vampire the Masquerade. I see you out there, people. Should I say degenerates? I mean,
they don't go outside anyways because it's a world of darkness.
Fantasy Flight Star Wars?
yeah, we do have support for Star Wars Fantasy Flight games, Warhammer 40K stuff, Warhammer Fantasy. Gotta shout out Savage Worlds, and of course, I always mispronounce the German, so I'm just going to say the Dark Eye. Among other, we have 300 or more fan-created systems supported.
Awesome. And we are going to get to talking more about Foundry, but first, we have some news. I was worried there for a minute, Philip.
The soundboard closed.
Oh, man. This next story, that's first story up here, is about the op, or the feeling I had as I read the story, the oop. So the start of this story is going to sound very familiar, and you know the very sad kind of state of affairs that we are currently in, and may not be in, but could also be in for at any given drop of a hat. But there is a difference to this story, and I promise you. So the op may send 15 containers of games back to China. The op CEO Dane Chaplin told New York Times columnist Brett Stevens in a recent interview. The games were shipped from China when tariffs were 20%, but the increase in tariff rate to 145% means the company would have to pay an additional $920,000 to bring them into the U.S. He thought it was, but this is where it gets good, because you got to remember, we live in a capitalist system. So he told Stevens that he thought it was unfair for big tech companies to get exemptions to tariffs when his much smaller business has nothing but bad choices. He noted that Apple has $60 billion in cash in the bank and has a market cap 231 times larger. Yet we haven't been put into deep, or that they haven't been put into deep peril by the chaotic, they have been put into deep peril by the chaotic random execution of trade policies. So, the other part of this that's not in the article that I referenced here is in that same New York Times column. He said, even though this is the case, he still doesn't regret voting for Trump. So, and that's the kind that kind of like obliviousness was the big kind of part of me picking this story, because I love I posted this on Twitter or on Blue Sky saying capitalist finds out that capitalism is bad. Talking about the like, why do people that have more money than me get exemptions? So, but the other half of the story that's not in here, and I thought I would bring it up, is immediately after this article went up, I got a press release from the op in my email, and I responded to them going, hey, by the way, just, take me off your list. Don't really care about supporting the op after your CEO's comments. And like 10 minutes later, I got a response going, totally understand.
At least you had a live response.
Yeah. That's what I was like. It wasn't the fact that he was it wasn't just the fact that he responded, it was what he responded with that was the funny part. So, all right. Moving on. This club I went to made you scan a pic before you got in line to get in. It was a QR code. Altered TCG's wild new print-on-demand service is now live. So Altered is it's a TCG, just like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, all that stuff. It's part of the Asmodee group of different things, but it broke records on Kickstarter with a 6.2 million crowdfunding campaign in 2024. Launched a live beta of its most novel feature called Print on Demand. So players can now order up to additional copies of any card in their collection directly through the game's online storefront. So you can buy packs, you scan in your cards, they'll have like a QR code on them, and then you can buy more of them. So, but yet you have like a TCG where there's like rarities and different things like that. I just thought that was kind of wild and crazy.
Okay, that's, and at least you have you have to have a copy
Right.
of the card before they'll let you get another copy of the card.
And I asked somebody, because one of the people at our store plays it, or there's a couple people, but somebody I know played it, and I was asking him, I was like, so like you scan in one copy of a rare and now you can print 3? And they're like, technically yes, but you have to have, like, if you're playing in a tournament, you have to have like the actual card. So, but what it does mean is like you want to use that card in like 3 different decks, you could print 3 copies of it and be fine, because you still have one copy of the regular card. And then again, it's only if somebody like deck checks you that you'd have to like show the actual.
You'd have to, yeah, and that's where it gets like, I'm just reading through. It's like you can trade or sell the rights to the cards online.
Yeah, that's where it gets
That's
a little.
getting a little.
That gets a little into NFT territory, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's more like some of the things I saw that were pretty cool, where it was you could upgrade your card. So like you can scan in, like the more packs you buy, you scan in like points, and you could get like foil versions of the, like, I have this card and I've bought enough cards to get a free foil upgrade, and I click purchase, and I guess I just pay for shipping or whatever, and they send me, now I have a foil version of that card, which that's kind of cool. But I'm guessing like the whole trading rights is like you would like just digitally trade it, and then like when you scan the QR code, it'll tell you how many copies that you legally own. So like a judge could just, I'm guessing like the judge, I'm guessing the way it works
that's
is
a good question, Beetle. I don't know. Beetle's question is, so only the retail copy has the QR code and the print-on-demand cards don't?
My assumption would be that they both have it, and I think the way it would work is when you scan the card, it shows like it's scanned to a user, and you can just see how many copies of the card the user has. So like you scan somebody's deck and only 1 shows up, but he's got 3 in his deck, then you know he's cheating. Or if he sold traded the card to somebody else, you scan the card, it doesn't show any cards of that copy on his account So I'm assuming that's how it's going to work. that's how I would do it. But I mean, it's cool, and it's not like it takes up like a huge portion. It's just this little tiny little card in there, and it's really cool artwork. You can play. They've got a version you can try on, since it's Asmodee. You can try it on Board Game Arena. I almost said Blood Game Arena. Yeah, Board Game Arena. So
Playing too much Warhammer there, Chris.
very true. But it also means like you can scan in the cards and have that exact card to play online with. Something that Pokemon
That's
got.
a neat.
Yeah, that's like the biggest part of this. That's really helps out of like being able to play with like the exact same cards. Pokemon got close, where you at least got the same type of product, but you still got randomized what was in there. But
Well, didn't they had a scanner that you could import your cards into the Pokemon trading card Game Boy game?
Yeah, I was thinking about the online one that they had, where they had like the I don't know. I don't remember what you're calling. They were like prize cards, basically. So I'd encourage you to still buy the packs. So, all right. Moving on. I had to recently get rid of a bunch of Star Wars and Star Trek games. Yeah, I just didn't have the space for them. Philip's just giving me death eyes now.
It's like, you got rid of Star Trek games?
No, I didn't.
I have space in my trunk. What do you mean you got rid of them?
So, a space game, Arcs, becomes a clear winner at one of 2024's biggest board game awards. So, the Golden Geek Awards on BoardGameGeek.com. I've been hearing nonstop nothing about Arcs. In fact, there's like a bunch of subreddits where like Arcs has become a big joke, just because like people will nonstop on like board game subreddits talking about Arcs. So, coming from the designer of Root and Leader Games, Arc is a strategic space exploration game. Then, it uses novel trick-taking mechanics to create swingy tension as everyone plays cards to seize control of the board and take the most optimal actions. All the while, Arcs is also a war game where players shift ships around their space territories and engage in combat with opponents. Juggle your area control with completing objectives, and you're on your way to victory. It also offers a campaign mode for extra depth, and there's already an excellent expansion available to modify the board game. So yeah, it got nominated in 2 additional categories. Let's see. Yeah, it got favorite games of the year, but it also was let's see, what does it say? I forgot what it was in the other 2 categories. Anyways. But yeah, so according to, and the Golden Geek Awards are fan, they're just a popularity contest. So that's just saying like there's a whole bunch of people that logged in every day to click the button to vote for Arcs. And then I was like, oh look, trick-taking space opera game. So there's another reason you won't like it, aside from it probably being asymmetric since it's by Leader Games.
Watch them throw in something agility based.
Yeah, flicking. It's got to be flicking.
Yes, if it's flicking, no, I'm done.
All right. Next up, did you hear about that priest overseas that renounced their religion? It wasn't so much heresy as it was theresy. So I've been hearing all year that everybody assumed, because Warhammer does this like 3-year evolution of like, every 3 years they got to do a new edition and whatnot. So everybody assumes that this summer is when there's going to be a 3rd edition of Horus Heresy. And so Games Workshop teased a trailer for a new edition of Warhammer, the Horus Heresy, where it's like 2 people at their desks, like talking, and this girl goes, "Oh wow, have you been seeing online? Everybody's talking about the new version of Horus Heresy," and the guy just like deadpan looks at the camera, and the other guy goes, Yeah, I think it's all Heresy.
Oh,
Yeah. No, it's like the kind of stuff I would write. But then it's like then there's like a real like trailer thing where it's this new edition or just Horus Hearsay. And there's actually, I forgot to bring it up, but there is a website that they made that's called the Horus Hearsay. This is like an
Nice.
extended April Fool's joke where like they did it as if it was like someone's GeoCities page where it's just like a
Yeah.
bunch of different stories. And then like down at the bottom, where is it? It says like, this is a totally 100% legit Warhammer website. And then immediately followed by all the copyright notices for Games Workshop. So, and then they just, every day they just keep pushing out like different things. It's like, oh man, flame templates are halving in size. Feel rough on armies like salamanders, but depends on what else we see happens to weapons. There's always Melta. And then like, oh, tactical pouch confirmed. Found a sprue with a pouch on it. So, and then just all sorts of like various things.
which is gonna get covered by a cape anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But I loved the joke. So, and it's funny because I've been saying this whole time that it looks like nobody ever said anything about a new edition. It's just everybody's online assuming it, and they're just kind of rolling with the joke. And I thought that was great. Because even still, like, this article goes, Horus Heresy 3rd edition revealed. They never said anything about a new edition. They just said, hey, do you see online everyone's talking about a new edition? Like, nothing in the trailer video says we're making a new edition. And yet the article says 3rd edition revealed. So. All right, last story. I decided to only decorate my bathroom with a bunch of items from various franchises I love. I call it the IP room. Marvel Champions, what? So, there's a lot of always got to throw a Magic the Gathering story in here just to make fun of Hasbro because it's easy. But fans won't crit Magic the Gathering because of Universes Beyond, says head designer. So their head designer defended the Universes Beyond strategy from the suggestion that players will quit if the IP keeps changing. So this is because, for those not in the know, they're in the chat, it's not GeoCities unless there's an under construction sign with a flashing light on top or a random UFO GIF. That's great. But Universes Beyond is all the different IP stuff they do. So there was like Warhammer, and they did Assassin's Creed, and they are about to do Final Fantasy, and then they're doing Marvel later. And they've been talking about, I think it was a couple weeks ago, we did the story where a lot of the Universes Beyond stuff has been selling super well, and it's been kind of helping them through some of the other turbulent, different economic stuff, especially since the cards are made here and not tariffed in. So
Did Lord of the Rings count as Universes Beyond?
yes,
Or was that just
that was Universes
okay.
Beyond.
The One Ring.
Yep, exactly. See, the Magic the Gathering's head designer Mark Rosewater has responded to a fan who claimed when the game jumps between IPs, buyers won't stick around, as well as emphasizing the care R&D takes to think far into the future of Magic when designing decisions. Rosewater reasons that since those players haven't quit yet, there's no reason to think they will in the future. The vast majority of Universes Beyond purchasers are existing Magic players. We expect the buyers to stick around because they already have a track record of sticking around. So Wizards has just had a hugely successful quarter with about 45% revenue growth over last year. In a recent investor call, this is what I was talking about, was particularly optimistic about Universes Beyond, and not just because Final Fantasy is already the best-selling set of all times. So another reason I brought this up is specifically because I know people who have quit Magic because of Universes Beyond. So I find it funny, their lead designer's like, fans aren't going to quit, when I already know there's a bunch of people who have quit. Because they're like, when you start having Spider-Man across from Assassin's Creed, It doesn't really feel like Magic anymore. That's their reasoning.
It 100% feels like Magic.
I'm just saying that's like people that are like longtime diehard Magic fans are not fans of Universes Beyond.
It's 100%. It's Urza versus Mishra.
Yeah,
And just
you're talking up the multiverse piece.
Yeah. The planeswalkers traveled the planes and they know all this. It's like, oh, I'm gonna pull in this metallic dragon that doesn't actually exist on the planet that we're currently standing on, but I
Yeah.
need it to fight him. That's how the game works.
Yeah. No, I get it. But also it's the fact of I don't know if it's more of the game is changing and maybe it's not the game that some people grew up with and that's why they leave.
Most things aren't what we grew up with anymore.
Exactly. So that just happens. That always seems to be a thing where it's like the thing that we fell in love with. You take off the rose tinted glasses and like, oh, this isn't just the thing like it was when I was kids. Maybe it wasn't as good.
Remember when Netflix was $8 a month
And mailed you DVDs.
and mailed you DVDs, right? Right. So, to everyone out there, DVDs were these plastic discs that went into a separate box, almost like a VCR player. So a VCR took these things called cassettes. And they would shoot. Yeah, we can get into that later. Chris, you got a laser disc behind you we can show them?
I
No,
was about to say DVDs are just smaller laser discs.
no, there's not enough. Actually, there's probably enough space on this shelf for a Laserdisc player, but it would jut out to
You
like
could
here. There's not enough depth for a Laserdisc player. I will say that.
Ah, there we go.
Because it would stick out like here. licensing.
Run it to the ceiling.
Yeah, there you go. But I do have a Laserdisc player. That is true. So, yeah, I mean, everybody talks about how I found this to be the case, and it doesn't matter what type of gaming you're talking about, whether it be Magic the Gathering for like board games and such, or Warhammer for minis games, or to kind of turn us back to RPGs like D&D. Like everyone always says, well, X is going to kill that thing. Like somebody did, and then they're like, why hasn't? And then like a year passes and said thing hasn't died. And even though like a category of people may have stopped playing said thing, it's still going like hard strong. And that's because no matter what the thing is when those games hit that critical mass, yes, you may have people every year falling off the game, but the game has become so massive, it's bringing in more people than the people falling off.
100%. There are now, I will drive by the game store and, oh, look, there's an open parking spot I can go to because this guy doesn't play Magic anymore.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of packs left in the booster box on the shelf. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like you just get to this cycle where like, sure, the older fans, there may be a bunch of older fans that die off, but the influx of brand new people, like I always hear people talk about like, I don't know why people or why like everyone I know still play or got rid of their 40K stuff. Everyone, it's dead in our area. I don't understand why it's still so big and stuff. And it's like, because you have things like Space Marine 2 that bring in like a whole flood of new players, and it outpaces the people that quit. So, I think the only thing, and in the RPG space, the only thing that hurt Wizards the most was Wizards when they did the OGL thing and just like made a boom for everybody else. But that was their own slip up. But speaking of, and we're already starting to get questions in the chat. So with that, we're going to turn it back and talk to Shane about Foundry. Beforehand, why don't you tell us a little bit about how, you as a gamer kind of, and what kind of games did you end up growing up with and things that you end up like?
Well, I think like a lot of people, I got started with Dungeons and Dragons. I remember my brother teaching me the rules for what was then AD&D Second Edition. Um, I wandered through a whole bunch of very weird and random games. It's a very long list that I won't go into. I was probably about, I'm going to say 11 or 12 when I first got started. Tried to run a few games in my teen years that were woefully tragic and edgy. Uh, I still remember running a rather successful Ravenloft game based around, I want to say, a flesh golem. It
Nice.
was a prefab D&D, what was then called modules. I don't know if they still do those. But it was a kind of small adventure for a few sessions. It was entertaining. I picked it up for, I think, $1.25 from my local gaming store. This was, of course, early to mid 90s. Ran a few years of a variety of freeform games online via IRC, which is a technology that I think some of you may be familiar with, but probably not a lot of you.
Think of it as the 90s version of Discord.
It very much is,
IRC.
and honestly, under the hood, Twitch chat is still IRC. Wonder, will I get your YouTube video hit if I mention Twitch?
Hopefully not.
Yeah, moved from a variety of freeform games, played a lot of a variety of World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness as that came out. Most obscure game I played in my teen years was a little known Canadian produced tactical RPG called Heavy Gear.
Ooh.
There's a throwback. Let's see if anyone in your audience catches on to that one.
The
They're
name
still making it.
the name
Interestingly.
sounds familiar, but I feel like I'm thinking of there was a video game I think named Heavy
There
Gear.
was.
Okay.
Yeah, same company.
Oh, okay. Then I
both
have
in the same universe.
Okay. Then yes, I'm familiar with the video game, but I didn't realize there was a RPG, a TTRPG.
Yeah, I think they were trying to take on like the BattleTech and MechWarrior
Yeah.
franchises with their own kind of thing.
Gotcha. So then, how did you get involved with Foundry?
Okay, so as many RPG people are wont to do, I have been working on my own RPG rule set for a very long time. I have not successfully done more than test it, but in early 2020, I had decided I was going to run a new testing game online for some friends, and took the time to try and find a virtual tabletop where I could develop a rule set for it. After six days of maddening frustration trying to make it work, trying to code my own rule set as a non-coder in one of our competitors' tabletops. I won't name them, that would be unfair. And getting told by everyone I asked for advice, why don't you just play D&D instead? I decided that that competitor was not for me. And I still remember like the feeling of defeat. I had been working on it all week, 12, 13 hours a day, trying to make it work. And on Saturday at 11 p.m., mid-February in 2020, I finally gave up and sat down on the couch next to my husband and said, look, I don't think I can make it work. I've tried everything to try and get this game to function. It's just the coding isn't working. And he saw my defeat, and like a good partner, went and sat down at his computer, and 2 a.m. Interrupted me playing a video game to say, "Hey, listen, I found this random other program that's supposed to be written in JavaScript, and maybe their community is more friendly." And it was only $5 to subscribe to the Patreon and get access to the alpha and try it out. Actually, I think it was beta at the time. So we jumped into their Discord, and I met one of the moderator staff, who informed me that yes, of course, we support all kinds of different systems. Why wouldn't we? If you want to try and code your own, there's all these Discord channels you can ask for advice. I'm sure someone will help you out. And that was an immediate drop of $5 from me.
Yeah.
And amusingly, I made friends with the developer of the Warhammer Fantasy RPG system, who very kindly took me by the hand as a non-coder and showed me all things, and listened to me scream at him in Discord DM with questions like, I won't phrase it exactly how I phrased it to him. Imagine more profanities, and said, what's an array? What do you mean object? I don't understand why this keeps saying object at me. And he patted me on the head and explained things, and eventually, about 3 weeks later, I had a fully functioning system and could run my game. And that kind of is how I ended up using Foundry VTT. And about 6 weeks later, I had been picked up as a moderator for their Discord, volunteering to help others in the community, because that's the kind of place we run. And shortly after that was the launch of the software in May 2020, and we just went from 3,000 members at the time to what is now 100,000 members on our Discord, and growing every month. And I basically started helping Andrew, that's Andrew Clayton, the owner at Probos, and lead dev, get the software off the ground as a actual launched official program. Something that you didn't buy on Patreon for $5 a month.
Yeah. Yeah, as Rustabito goes, welcome to object-oriented programming. That's funny.
I have long since given up my hubris of trying to believe that I could maintain the code myself.
Well, awesome. It's always nice to have a community where you can just kind of post a question and have someone be like, "Oh, hey, have you tried this?" instead of being like, "Why would you do it that way?"
Yeah, and I think that's part of what motivated me to get involved with the company is Andrew has very strong opinions on what the community should be, and we don't really tolerate this kind of attitude of, I'll say, negativity surrounding people's ideas. Like, we want people to be encouraged to dive into crazy things like, oh, you're not a programmer? Do you want to learn to be? Like, we want to encourage that creativity. We want people to try new crazy things with the software. We want people to be motivated to face whatever random dream they're after for a TTRPG. And the community kind of, it's a place where you don't have to worry about asking questions and facing judgment, which is rare in this broad, sometimes very offensive internet.
Yeah. Just Philip, just to remind you, we saw Foundry at PAX Unplugged this year.
Mhm.
That was the one That was the one that had it was the Ember. At the time, they were showing off Ember, that we had,
I got
which
to play with it.
yeah, we got to play with it a little bit. We'll probably have that. I think we don't have it up here because I know it's still in work, and that's a whole separate team because you got like Foundry, and then Ember's more of like, okay, now that we have the product, we can like make a thing on it. So it's like a whole different team.
Yeah, I can talk a very small amount about Ember, but I'm not a member of the Ember team. I'm just Foundry's community manager, and I don't really want to steal their thunder. So
Yeah.
maybe you can get one of the Ember team in for a future podcast to try and show it off a little bit more and that kind of thing. I can speak to a few things, but nothing that, I mean, you might be better off just showing the Ember trailer that's on our website.
Fair. But yeah, that was kind of what sold me, because again, there's okay, two things sold me. The first of was seeing Ember, and like, because I've tried a couple of different VTTs, and I've bought things on various other. I own probably a lot of some pieces of D&D and Pathfinder content on like 4 different VTTs just because for trying them all. And then, so I knew like, oh, that's just another one. So seeing Ember and seeing like what you could do with it, so because it's kind of like basically what's the word? It's a good showing of what is available in the software.
Yeah. The way I look at Ember is it's our company's attempt to get as close to a CRPG like, say, some of the Pathfinder Owlcat CRPGs, Kingmaker, Wrath of the Righteous, while also being a traditional GM-run role-playing game, sit down around a table and play it together. So it's like a hybrid between the two, and I'm very excited to see what people think of it as it rolls out, because it's something that I don't think there's anything like it anywhere else on any virtual tabletop.
Test bed, that's what I was thinking of. It's a good test bed of the software, as far as showing off things. But yeah, no, I totally had that vibe, because I even mentioned to Philip, and just to kind of rephrase, Ember is like a setting, world, and game kind of all in itself that's run on Foundry. But I even said, I think when we were demoing it, like I could see, the way that some people like, hey, let's hop on Helldivers and play for a couple of hours every night. I could see, being like, hey, let's jump onto Ember and just play a few encounters, kind of thing.
Yeah, it would certainly. It has a far-reaching story, but it also has, as I understand it, some random encounter stuff that is a little bit more in-depth and a bit more involved than just, you move to a new hex and there's a fight you have to deal with. So I don't have a full view of it, because again, not on that team, but I hear murmurings from the other staff.
Yeah, the second reason I got interested in Foundry was when I found out that the Pixels dice was like first party supported on Foundry, and then that was like, okay, that seals the deal.
Yep, those guys, and Go Dice as well, which I've got a D20 Go Dice I have used in the past, but having Bluetooth dice is a very interesting way to play the game. I haven't quite felt comfortable with it. I'm way more comfortable with just using dice roll commands in the chat.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah. No, I get it, but I like it because it's like one of the reasons I haven't played a whole lot of VTT games is because I like the feeling of rolling actual dice, and this kind of gives you best of both worlds, where it's like I get to roll the dice, but yet there's not a, that inconvenience piece of not being able to see the dice, that sort of thing.
Having them directly connected through Bluetooth or whatever, it does certainly take out the delay that comes with, typing a roll command.
Yeah. But enough about talking about Foundry. Why don't you show us some Foundry?
Sure. That's interesting. Why is that showing Demon Queen? I currently have Something interesting is
Oh,
going on here.
I will
Maybe my stream is frozen.
stop the stream and then start it up again.
Should be showing a house divided currently. I can
It
talk
is.
a little bit
It
about
is.
while I'll vamp for you a little bit while you get the stream going. It is possible that it is me, not you.
Nope, it was me. Just because it had
Uh,
been running in the side and not selected.
Fair. So what I'm going to show off is a little bit of a house divided, which is one of our larger first-party products, currently available for the D&D 5e rule set. It was this is just mostly a way for me to show you some of the V12, that's version 12 stable content that we have available. This is a test world that I usually do some minor stuff in, just if I'm working on anything in particular. The this is about 100 hours of gameplay. It's available for purchase on our website, of course, and marketplace, I should say. But fully rendered maps. Of course, we have automatic fog of war for players that for player side tokens. Very involved story, art from several artists in the community, as well as commissioned artwork from man, I can never remember Leah's studio.
Holy crap. That is so cool. I just saw it took me a second. I was like, wait, is the something on my screen? Nope, that's the lights pulsing.
Yeah. So one of the key features of Foundry Virtual Tabletop, dating back, I think predating version 7, as far back as 4.75, I think, was animated lights. So this gives a lot of power for GMs, but also content creators to take what is otherwise a static map and add some life to it just through very subtle animation. So, for example, if I just delete these light sources right now, look how flat this map can be.
Yeah.
So if I just bring up the light so that it's daytime, this is going to slowly fade in. Granted, this particular scene is meant to take place in kind of a realm between kind of similar to the Shadowfell for people who are familiar with D&D. Not specifically that, but a realm nearby, we'll say. You'll notice that the interior is actually darker than the exterior. This is actually a feature from version 12 for scene regions. So if you are a GM, one of the common problems with virtual tabletops is you want the outside to be lit as if it's daytime, but the interior you want to be darker and reliant on its own light sources. We now have ability for people to do that just by customizing a region. This is just a drawn polygon the way you draw with, say, paint tools. And then you just assign it a behavior, in this case, adjust darkness level. So I'm just going to turn that off real quick and switch back to my lighting layer. And this is what the map looks like without any animated lights and with no darken. So if I wanted to switch back, all I have to do is transition to darkness, going to undo, turn my lights on, and here we are with proper lighting re-enabled. So we have this very dark library full of imps who are hidden away, but can of course be highlighted by the GM. Just tap the Alt key. And double-clicking, of course, brings up the beautiful character sheet from the D&D 5e system maintained by our staff, as well as several members of the community who are just volunteer contributors. And of course, I can show off the artwork of the token to players as well, but also to our viewers just by clicking on the portrait to bring it up a little bit more. And we have fantastic character in this module from Josh Server. This is our Incubus librarian, who is a rather entertaining character, tries incessantly to convince the players to make deals with him for additional things throughout the story. But this is just one view. This, of course, is the shade side of the manor. If I just want to switch over to A House Divided as a Story is kind of a realm traversing story that it's the same, well, it's a similar manner across 3 different realms: material plane, a more fey or fairy oriented plane, and of course the Shadowfell oriented one. So if I want to jump to a different one, I can just drop down here, go to the same floor on a different plane. You'll have to pardon the loading time. My internet is not fantastic. Any second now. If I was thinking ahead, I would have preloaded these scenes so that they just pop in from memory.
It's all good. All the podcast listeners are going to be jealous that they don't get to see it anyways.
Yeah, yep, that is a downside of a vocal medium. They can check out the video on YouTube.
Yes.
Anytime now.
I'm also just seeing all these and comparing. So I've started running, because we're going to be running Tales of the Valiant using Foundry for our patrons. And I've got some stuff in there, and I'm just comparing that to everything you've got going on here. And I'm just like, I need to watch more videos and guides.
Yeah, well, there is a slight difference in that this content, of course, was prepared by a team of people who
Fair.
work with the software on a daily basis. The maps were made by Atropos himself, as well as one of the community members from the Pathfinder community, a gentleman named Narky, who has also done map work, is doing map work currently for Ember, but did the maps for our Pathfinder Abomination Vaults conversion, etc. And the goal when we set these up, as John Plow, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, in chat points out right now, everything is preset up. Our goal is to provide the adventure in such a state that a GM can just pick up and run with it and not have to do hours and hours and hours of prep before every session in order to make it ready for their players. We want them to maybe a half hour of reading or what have you and be able to just pick it up and play.
Which is how I like. Yeah, that's like if I'm paying, because that is one thing that you know there is a bunch of free modules and free add-ons, but there is also a lot of paid content on there, and you know some people might be like, oh, you know, why would I want to buy, you know, the player's guide again? You know, when I've got the PDF, I've got the physical. Why do I want to pay another? I'm just going to use Tales of the Valiant, $35 for the player's guide. But like the integration is so good. It's so good. Like
yeah, that's one of the sticking points for me is for Foundry VTT. One of the goals of the software from jump, one of the like guiding principles for its development was to provide a software that was a one-time purchase. So Andrew wanted, and for the record, we have stuck by this. Like Foundry VTT was made available for $50 US in 2020. We have not raised the price whatsoever. It's a one-time purchase, free updates, period. You can self-host it. going forward forever. The only thing that's extra purchases are just that. They're extra. You don't need to pay any money to play your game, to run your game. But if you want the added convenience of having everything prepared for you and ready to go, then I don't know about you, but I'd much rather throw some cash and not have to spend, an unknown amount of hours entering data into character sheets and what have you to prepare for my game. I'd rather be able to just pick it up and run with it because someone else has done that work for me, and it cost me $20 to have them do it.
Right. Yeah, like the modules for Tales of the Valiant, which again I'm only talking about because I physically have messed with those modules, or I guess digitally is the right word. That I can drag and drop, I can pull up and search by monster, by type. There's even roll tables where if I just want a random monster of this level and drops in as a token, and then I can click on it and edit it, or I could change it if I want to change it up from the random monster or from the monster that's in there. Like maybe I want to make it fire breathing instead of, or whatever. But not only that, it also has the PDF in there. That is one thing. But the player guide, there's a whole character builder, and at any time you can click more info and it pops up the PDF with the actual text from the document. But it's also built in to where all the math, that yes, like you said, you could go in and do it yourself, but you could just do it. And the other thing is only one person has to, whoever the DM is really, or who's running the game really needs to own the software or the the software and the stuff for it. So I've purchased everything for our games. None of the patrons have to buy anything. Philip doesn't have to buy anything. All I have to do is just make them a login and they have access to everything that I have.
Yeah, and likewise, we try and that's encouraged on our FAQ, on our purchasing documentation when we're talking to people in our license agreement. It openly states if you want to share your server, you've bought the software. We aren't concerned about people buying it and then sharing it with someone else at their table who's going to GM next week.
Right.
That's part of our design philosophy. We want people doing that. The idea was to basically treat it like your player's handbook for a game, the rule book for a game. Just because you're GMing right now doesn't mean you're always going to be the forever GM. Someone else at your table might want to run the game. You already have the book. They shouldn't need to buy it. You can just borrow it, and we wanted that as part of the software. And that was, that's Andrew's vision for it. It's something that he wanted from the beginning, and it still is.
Philip, you look like you're waiting to ask a question.
I just want to say I am mesmerized by this map because not only are the light sconces pulsing, we're currently kind of focused on a room that has a pool of water in it. And the waves are making reflections of light in the room and they're bouncing all around.
Yeah, so this is actually a little trick that we used. This is actually multiple light sources. So what we have in the middle of the room is a light source that was placed on the pond. That is to say the bath that's in the room. And it's very subtle. It's a very slight light with the animation type of ghostly light, which kind of gives you this rippling, faint reflective light, like a soft reflection off of, say, water. And of course, it's the full width of the room, because any light shining into a pool of water is just going to hit every flat surface because reflection. But we kept it kind of slower so that it's not crazy. Like I could turn this up right now and very simply raise the
Does it-
speed to 10.
Does it go to 11?
It does not go to 11. 10 is the highest.
Philip, I'm seeing I'm seeing that flashing it fast, and I had images of a Stargate event horizon. You get that kind of like
Yes.
ripple.
I've actually seen someone do the Stargate, like they had a faux Stargate game they were running, and they've done like the animated texture
Nice.
that was normally flat, but you just throw this light source over top of it and it gets the same effect.
Love it.
One of the other benefits, of course, while we're in this room is I kind of played with this a moment ago, but I'll just show it off clearly. You may notice we have Ol Shambly here, which is a shambling mound. And we can, in fact, because this is a pre-coded macro, I can just press one button and activate Shambly.
Oh,
And he comes out of the bushes.
oh my God. He is the bushes.
But
Oh,
with a quick
wow.
Control Z, he just blends right back into the texture. And this is because what we've done is we had the token artist create a second token that is specifically designed to blend into the background here.
Gotcha. That's so
And
cool.
the actual texture, I can just press one button. Whoop.
Ah,
I accidentally Control Aid and selected all tokens on the map.
I hate it when that happens. Pedro in the chat says he just discovered Foundry today, and it looks great. Already posting in the Discord looking for a game to join.
Yeah, we do have a very mild looking for group section of our Discord that is great for people who just want to try it out and see what a game's like. There's a lot of people running games there, including several GMs who run paid games using our software. And yeah, I encourage people to jump in.
Yeah, Philip, I'm kind of getting mesmerized by this too. Like,
yeah, this
wait,
is,
what are we doing?
God, this is like a
Now-
lava lamp or a system defrag or something.
I've talked a fair bit about V12 and the House Divided. I'm going to jump to some current work. It's not yet released, but we're in process of converting the Demon Queen Awakens to V13 support, adding some of the features that came with the upgrade to the software.
That's right, because somebody had
one you'll
posted
notice-
in the chat. F2B Coder said, "What are upcoming features of Foundry or that are present in the current version?" And I figured that was a good time because V13 is V13 out, or is it coming out?
It is stable. Stable release went official, I believe, last week. Maybe a week before. I don't know. Things are getting out of control as we get closer to our anniversary in my head.
Gotcha.
So, I think it was last week that we launched V13 stable. It is available now. Not all game systems or modules are updated for V13 yet, which means if you're going to check out V13, do take backups. Be careful with your data. Don't end up in our troubleshooting room, panic and trying to get your game back working 10 minutes before session time. But this is one of our other adventures. It's a slightly shorter adventure, kind of a boss rush campaign, where your party has 24 hours to kill 5 bosses, and they are designed to be a significant challenge. We're in process of converting this for V13 features, one of the more notable ones being animated doors, which are just a built-in feature to the software if you have a map suitable for its use. I'll demonstrate that momentarily. But first, you'll notice the UI is a little bit different. It's a little bit more faded out. It's a little bit more discrete until I hover over key features of it and it brightens up a little bit. This was one of the major feature goals for V13. We wanted a complete UI overhaul in order to get to kind of modernize it, because it I don't want to say that V12's UI looked bad, by no means did it, but we wanted it to be more discreet, to bring in some kind of modern features like the HUD fading away when you're not actively using it. And of course, all of these settings are configurable from inside the UI menu on our configuration sidebar. But that was one of our key features. Of course, all the applications are now converted to use this new system. So everything picks up this dark theme, or if you are a light mode user, if you're not, forgive me, you may about to get a little bit of blinding. I'll just switch this real quick. But you can configure it to a light mode, which was a very big feature gain for accessibility reasons. We've got a lot of users who are colorblind, or apparently if you have an astigmatism, this helps. I'm not entirely sure how, but I was glad to help advocate to push for it to go in. We take accessibility seriously and recognize that we're not, all the way there yet, but we are taking steps to try and improve how accessible the software is. With this particular mode, this particular UI automatically detects if you set prefer dark mode in your operating system or browser. It will use that instead of light mode, or you can specifically configure it. I'm going to jump now into the main map for Demon Queen. This may load a little bit more quickly because I'm not actually going to a remote server. This is hosted locally.
Gotcha.
But what we have here is...
So actually, before you get into explaining that, because that is a good... Someone less techie might not understand that terminology. So when you're saying self-hosted versus remote server, explain the difference there. Because that is a big key feature of Foundry, with it being a separate software one-time purchase.
Right, because we're a self-hosted software, if you want to host your server with a hosting partner, say the Forge or Molten Hosting or Foundry server, or even just through like a third-party provider like Amazon Web Services or DigitalOcean, Linode, something like that, nothing stops you from doing that. You can host the software wherever you want, whether that's on your own computer at home, locally hosted, or on a remote server where you're paying someone to do the work to host the software for you, or just because you have, the education to know how to set up the server yourself, you can just upload it to a hosting provider, set up the server, make it accessible for your players, no problems. When I say self-hosted, I mean you're doing the work to set up the server, whether or not that's on a remote host, like a company that you're paying to give you a server, or on your own computer, and you're doing the port forwarding setup to let people past your router access your server.
One of the differences being is by like having the remote, it's like, oh, my players can always access the world, versus like self-hosting, if that computer's off, or if you just don't have the software up and running, then nobody can, go join the game, edit their characters, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I feel obligated to point out that because there's a lot of, I'll say, justified security concerns that people may have about port forwarding and letting people into their network.
Oh yeah.
Foundry VTT is only the port that you open for Foundry VTT. It only has anything on the other end of it if you're running the software. If you close the software, there's nothing there to take a connection. It will just time out. So it a lot of people are paranoid about providing people their IP address and letting them into the network. There's not really any concern here. It's the same as running any web server. It's just on a specific port.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, you were getting the map. I just wanted to, just in case, because it's kind of like the thing with Foundry is it can be as technical or as little or as much technical as you want.
Exactly, and you always have the option, of course, if you're not someone who's technical, or if you are like me and are just lazy and don't want to do the work yourself, you can pay someone to do it for you. Like, we have 3 hosting partners that provide the service. You can pay them. They'll set up the server for you. You don't have to do any of the work to do the port forwarding and set up a domain name or any of that. Just give them some money every month and they'll run the server. It does require a Foundry license key, so you do still have to buy the software to use it, but you can host it wherever you like. Right. So big feature, couple of big features from V13. Animated doors.
Whoa.
Just very easy to configure. It's the same way that you set up doors normally. Just draw a wall, mark it as a door, and now we have this new drop down where you can actually set the open direction. You can set the type of animation. So if you want it to slide or swivel or swing, it's just that easy. It does come with some some package door types. So if you just threw a map together for your players and you want to make a door for them, you can probably just use a specific door from our files instead of having to upload your own, but you can upload your own if you're inclined. So let's just say I want to put a door across these 2 statues. I can go to animation type. Let's say it's going to be a slide double door. I'm going to pick it from our core file, so this comes free with the software. Let's make it a large one. And we want let's say a light wooden one. I want the open direction to be default. It's a double door. Maybe I don't want it to open all the way, so I'm going to make it, say, 0.8 for the animation strength, and I don't want it to open too fast, so I'm going to make it about a 2000 animation duration. That's milliseconds. So now we have this double wooden door that just automatically appeared because I set the wall that way. And when I click on it, it opens. Likewise, of course, players can open it, so you can just right-click to set it to locked if you don't want them to do that. That animated doors was kind of one of the first features to make its jump from the Ember project, into the core software. We did that very early in V13, and it's honestly, it feels like a very trivial feature, but it's also one that feels very showy and will get a lot of attention when players, when the first time a player goes to click a door and it swings open in front of them.
They're just gonna sit there and click it open and close a bunch.
Yeah, there's that tactile. It adds a tactile feel that you don't normally get in virtual tabletop software. one of the other core features for V13, actually, this was the one voted on by the Patreon community, is our new implementation of token drag measurement, which means where in V12, just jump back over there real quick. If I pick up and drag, say, this token right here, it just moves. There's no highlighting, there's no indication of how far it moved, anything like that. But in V13, we have this nice, clean, measured movement system that automatically starts
Wow.
when you pick up and drag. Of particular interest is if your movement would pass through a wall, that's automatically, of course, prevented by movement blocking walls. But notice how the ruler changes to a nice dashed line to indicate you can't actually move there. Likewise, if you are in waypoint mode, you can in fact increase your elevation or decrease your elevation with the scroll wheel for just a nice, convenient, hey, I'm also flying, so now I'm 40 feet up. But say we want to tell people that that is actually a flying movement and not a walking one. I can hit tab, and now it's also marked as a flying movement. Or a swimming movement. Or a burrowing movement.
Like
Crawling,
Street Circs.
Climbing, running, teleporting, and so on. It was really, I think this feature is probably the one that the dev team had the most debates on as it was being developed throughout this dev cycle. Just because we wanted to get it to feel right, for GMs and players. And there were 2 or 3, I think, competing modules that offered, modules in the term of Foundry VTT is like an add-on. There were 2 or 3 competing add-on modules that offered similar features for like a ruler that appeared as you were dragging your token. And we drew some inspiration from how some of those did their thing, but this has been a feature that we've planned for quite some time. So we wanted to do it our own way, but also we wanted people to be comfortable using it. It needed to be intuitive to do it right. So there was a lot of back and forth with the dev team and the non-dev support team, just trying to get that feeling where we wanted it to feel like when you're sitting around the table and you go to move your token on a game mat. We wanted that, but we also wanted the added benefit of being able to tell, okay, I've moved this many spaces, I've moved this distance, I'm moving in this pattern so that I don't get abused by the 5-10-5 movement method, etc. We wanted to capture that essence. Trying to think other V13 big ticket features, so I'm gonna cheat here and just in the background I'm gonna jump over to the patch notes. For those who are interested in clear highlights of what's available in V13, you can in fact look at the patch notes for our first stable version of V13, and we do a comprehensive kind of, hey, here you go, update. One that does come to mind, of course, is just kind of a side project for Secret Fire, who's one of the more canvas and lighting focused developers on our team. He added sound reactive lighting. So if you play a playlist through Foundry VTT and have a light set to sound reactive, you can in fact just watch as the light pulses in time with the music.
That's
And
pretty
if you set
cool.
it more intense or less intense, it'll pick up the bass more or the treble more, respectively. Uh, and we may add some fine tuning for that in the future. We haven't yet, but it is a new light animation type. Uh, you can see. I wonder if I can.
So So I will say, because like Hoser 40K is talking about, like, I hope I'm getting all this, and yeah, I got a lot to read up on. But like, some of this, especially seeing this, whereas this is, a paid module for someone that maybe doesn't have the money for that, or prefers playing in their own sandbox. This can seem overwhelming, but I will say, as someone who's made their own map in here, that it's actually a lot easier than it might look, because like oh, well, I don't know how to draw. Well, there's plenty of like map making software out there that can make the map, because all that map is in the back, that's just an image. That
Yes.
that's not like you drag and drop to make the map on there. So that's just like, you can make your map in other places. If you want to Photoshop it and draw it yourself because you're a great artist, cool, more power to you. But for those of us without those skills, like I used a website called Incarnate. There's also like the campaign cartographer, the dungeon designer, those types of things that'll make the maps really relatively easy with just a little bit of learning. And then you just drag and drop that into Foundry. And then can you go to the walls tab?
Absolutely.
So then all you have to do is then go to the walls tab and just draw lines boxing in everything.
Yep.
And then like the light sources and the doors, those are all like, again, you just kind of drag and drop, and then the lights you drag and drop, and because you've defined those walls, the lights know how to react. Even like my map I haven't done the lighting, but I just have it daylight, or like the standard lighting everywhere, and because I just have a token that just I move around, it dynamically interacts with the fog of war because that's just in by default. So like, again, it's that little or as much as you want to put into it, but I don't want anyone to see this and get overwhelmed by like the options of it's not it looks nice to the player, but for the GM, it's very intuitive, I found. Like, I've been able to fumble around and do a lot without having to do a bunch of searching, other than maybe a couple of minor questions. And even then, all you got to do is type in the question and then put Foundry VTT on the end. And someone has probably asked it, because not only is there the Discord that they have, but there's also a pretty active subreddit, the Reddit/r/Foundry VTT. That they have things, and even you can tag it per game mode, like what game you're playing, and people that are playing that game type. Whereas, like you were talking about with other software, where people are like, "Wow, why don't you just play D&D?" You could say, "Oh, I'm playing." You can tag it for Savage Worlds, and then get a bunch of people who are also playing Savage Worlds in Foundry to be like, "Oh, have you tried this module or this setting, or whatever?" So it's really it's not as overwhelming as it might seem on the surface.
Yeah, and I will say that one of the things that I try and really encourage people to do who are new to not only our software but to running using a virtual tabletop specifically, we often hear, I don't want my sessions to feel like a video game.
Yeah.
I want my sessions to still feel like a tabletop role-playing game. And it is very easy to get caught up in the available features. And you're right when you say you can use as much or as little as you want of them. When we're building these premium content experiences, we try and use all the bells and whistles. We want to do it because we want people who buy that product to feel like they got their money's worth. We want them to feel like someone has gone and done every possible thing that this software can be used to do to make this convenient and unique and interesting. But I don't know about players in your game, but players in mine have a tendency to wander off the map to locations that I haven't planned for. And if I need to hastily throw a map together, I don't necessarily feel obligated to have the animated doors and the flashy lights and the walls drawn in everywhere,
Right.
because I just need something to show them where enemies are so that they can punch them in the face. You know, it's good to have all the features available,
Because you
but
want people to get their
just
money's worth
because
when they drop money on something like this. But not every game needs to be that.
exactly, and just because the feature exists doesn't mean it needs to be used every session. Uh, I'll share this story
Uh-oh.
very briefly. I once, early in my Foundry VTT days, I once went through all the trouble of fully mapping a 13,000 pixel by 13,000 pixel town. Lights, walls, you could walk through the door into the interior of a house, place tokens for every person in that town. I had it set up so that the torches in the street lamps would come on when the scene got dark. I went through everything. I set up shops. I put lights on the water's surface that were different during the day and night, so it looked like the water had waves. I I think it took me the better part of a week and a half of just setting up this fully realized town for my players to explore.
And then they
The session,
bypassed the entire town, didn't they?
the session started on a Friday night. It was meant to be a 4-hour session. Of that time, they spent 30 minutes in the town, went to the inn, slept there overnight, had a conversation with a barmaid, got back on their horses, rode out of town, and never came back. Always, always, always take the time to think about what your players are actually going to do with the scenes you prepare and scale down your efforts. You will over prep if you're not careful.
Yep. It's just like when you have when you write all this backstory for your lore, for your world, and then they don't care about the history of, Silverberg, how it was founded 300 years ago by a guy named Silver and a guy named Berg. Like they don't know, they don't care. They just want to go to the shop there.
John Plow, I'm going to say Plow, maybe, in chat has pointed out that several map creators have started including Foundry support. We actually, from the very early days when we first launched the software, we were working with several Patreon map creators who wanted to include modules of their maps for just people using Foundry VTT to use. Some of them are paid, some of them gave free packs. I need to shout out Tom Cardos, Forgotten Adventures.
Oh yeah, he's got a bunch of
Peora.
books on maps too. Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many map creators. Angela Maps, Demille's Wondrous Works, who have really embraced not just maps for virtual tabletops, but maps for our virtual tabletop specifically.
Right.
And some of them have free packs. Like we maintain them. They're included. You can search for them now. Clue. Okay. Sorry about that, John. You can go and get these maps for free right now just by searching the add-on module section of our setup screen. Like we have so much content, and there are so many content creators that have made their products available, and they put lights, they put maps. Mad Cartographer is another one. I don't know how those people manage to produce as many maps as they do in the short time they do, but piles and piles of these really detailed, absolutely comprehensive maps that have everything from animated lighting, walls pre-drawn. Some of them include full journal entries full of NPCs that occupy entire towns.
Wow.
There's so much content out there for people to just use.
Yeah, and John also mentions that some map making programs like Dungeon Alchemy, which I'm gonna have to note and check that out, even support
Yeah,
Foundry and will make importable ones that do the walls and lights for you.
yeah. Dungeon Alchemist. The Dungeon Alchemist is a big one. It uses some kind of AI to, as I understand it, it's the good AI, not the bad AI, to produce just you draw a room and tell it what it is, and it populates it with set decoration that's suitable. Um, there's also Dungeon Fog's another one, and it's Dungeon Draft, yes, uh, which is another very inexpensive map making software. It comes with assets ready to go. I know a lot of people use Dungeon Draft, uh, and just you can get full asset libraries from people like Tom Cardos or Forgotten Adventures to build in. Uh, Someone else tells me to shout out Bailey Wiki. Bailey Wiki is a huge content creator in our community. A lot of add-on heavy stuff for people who want a very, I'll say, curated experience for their games. Bailey Wiki embraces the automate everything lifestyle, which for people who don't want, a video game like experience, maybe Bailey Wiki's not for you. For people who do want that video game like experience where everything is automated, definitely check out Bailey Wiki's work. One of the key features for Foundry Virtual Tabletop is modularity.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted a software that has a robust API where people can do whatever they want within reason with the code base of the software. You can modify just about every functionality provided in ways that we can't imagine. People have made conversions to turn the currently 2D canvas that you're looking as a top-down view into isometric or 3D modes. There's whole suites of add-ons for automating rules for various game systems to varying degrees.
I thought it was cool. There's actually a free module that lets you import D&D Beyond characters. So if you are one of the people that plays, the world's most popular RPG, then like D&D Beyond has some really great tools for it. If you're going on there making your own character and whatnot, and your players, everybody knows D&D Beyond, and they've got their character list in there. All you have to do is just like copy and paste. I think there's like a code or an ID or something, and then this module automatically imports and brings them in to Foundry. And not only that, I saw there was another one that you can even do for purchase content that you've purchased on D&D Beyond, like modules and stuff you purchased there. So if you're like me and you've bought a bunch of stuff on other, like on 50 million other places, now here's one place you don't have to buy it, because you can just use a module to bring it in from like the official D&D Beyond place.
Yep, I should shout out two things about the D&D Beyond importer. One, while it does have some free features, some of them are paid as well. So if you want to convert, say, an adventure, to import an adventure from that you purchased on D&D Beyond, I believe you do have to pay for that. But it's like a really reasonable couple of bucks a month on Patreon to the creator of the module that helps them maintain it.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing about the content imported is while the people setting up that content through Mr. Primate's D&D Beyond importer are very professional in their conversion, you will not get the same experience that you get for paying for the content that's converted by our team, for example.
Right.
That's not any kind of slight against Mr. Primate and his people over there. It's just the reality is we have a dedicated team of professionals working on converting stuff like the 2024 Monster Manual, or the forthcoming Tomb of Annihilation adventure that I think we have announced we're working on, with no set release date yet. But it is different in that the way it's set up and the features that it comes with, it's going to have some differences. So I don't want people trying to import from D&D Beyond and then being disappointed with the experience, and then going, well, if this is what Foundry content is like, maybe I don't need to buy premium content.
Quite the opposite.
I mentioned earlier, we try and go to all possible lengths to make our conversions as feature-rich as possible.
Right. Yeah, and John also mentions that he switched to the in-game character creation once there was the official partnering with D&D. So we've been talking a lot about using obviously the main draw of Foundry for virtual games, but I also just wanted to shout out an instance where I've been using it, and this kind of also goes back into the I don't want my games to feel like a video game, where it's something I've wanted to do ever since I first found out about virtual tabletops, and I got a cheap little projector and I put it and hang it up, and I've started running D&D games for kids at our local game store, because they'll have 10 to 20 kids on Saturday mornings come play D&D, and these are kids from I've talked about this in the Patreon stuff, and these are kids as young as 8 to 10, and they want to play D&D. And I just have a projector that just angled up on a mic stand pointed down at the table, and I just have a map, and using Foundry for it was so much better, because I would see other DMs where they would have maps, and if a kid sees that there's a room over there, they're going to metagame the crap out of it and be like, I want to go into that hidden room over there. I'm like, well, you don't know that that's there. But with Foundry, I can hide away that room until they open the door or reveal the wall, and suddenly it's there.
Yeah, I've had a similar experience where I ran a very short haul. I didn't use a projector. I just kind of used my flat screen TV on the wall for my niece, as just kind of a very rudimentary. Here's a brief introduction to the Pathfinder 2nd Edition beginner box. I'm going to run it. She's kind of young. I'm going to run it very rules light and just give you an experience of a bridge between video game and role-playing game, and just move her token around on the screen for her as directed. Gave her a laser pointer and said, you point at the screen, tell me where you want to go.
So yeah, Pavel is in the chat saying very good experience with Pathfinder 2e. It's also a very good quality. I've heard some people just reading on the subreddit where they talk about the integration with Pathfinder 2e is so good, it's practically it might as well be the official VTT for Pathfinder 2e.
I've heard similar statements, not only on our subreddit, but also on the Pathfinder 2e subreddit, which I'm very pleased about. Pathfinder 2e was one of the earliest game systems for Foundry. It's not actually the earliest. I think I mean, D&D 5e, of course, has that, but Warhammer Fantasy also was one of the earliest ones, and Savage Worlds. But Pathfinder 2e was in that like top 10 list of the most supported and earliest supported systems. And because Paizo has an extremely permissive community use policy if you are producing stuff for free, the Pathfinder 2e dev team was able to package basically all of the rules content as open game content, which means if you are someone who wants to run a role-playing game and you don't have the kind of income to be able to afford 80,000 books, you can just install the Pathfinder 2nd Edition system, and all the rules are just there. Every creature, every monster, every I won't say every NPC from an adventure, because the adventure text is separate, but you can run a Pathfinder 2nd Edition game without buying anything if you're willing to sit down and read the rules on, say, Archives of Nethys, which is the Paizo's official SRD system reference document. But we also have parity between Archives of Nethys and the Foundry VTT system. So if you need to check a rule or check, I want to do a shove action, what are the rules pertaining to that? You can look up the shove action in the system. It's right there ready for you to use. And that's all because Paizo was extremely permissive with allowing that to exist. So what I'll do right now is I'll actually pull up, do I currently have, okay, I got the beginner box. I'm going to pull up the beginner box for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This was the first official premium content that we released for Pathfinder 2e as an in-house conversion, and in fact one of the earliest in-house conversions of another publisher's premium content. We took a lot of people by surprise with this release at the time, because there was a community event planned on the Pathfinder 2nd Edition subreddit that happened to align with the with a time when we were working on developing Abomination Vault, which is kind of not really a follow-on from the beginner box, but takes place in the same town. And we hit a delay where Paizo was re-releasing Abomination Vault as a single hardcover version. And it was meant to release, I think, that April. And we ended up being told it was going to release in May instead. So we were faced with the choice of, taking the team that was working on this, on Abomination Vaults off and saying, okay, well, for the next 30 days, sit on your hands and don't do anything, because we were basically done. So, we can't release it. Have fun. Or doing kind of a victory lap, putting final development of Abomination Vault on hold and developing the beginner box, which we did way too quickly. It was a 3-week development timeline, and we hadn't even announced to the community yet that we were doing anything. So Paizo, someone pointed out to us that there was this community event for beginner box that April. We're like, okay, we have 3 weeks to get this packaged and out and announce it to hit the deadline that it would be available ahead of this community run event. I remember putting it to the content creation team at the time, do you guys actually want to do this? Because this is going to be a lot of work to hit that deadline. And the response was almost uniformly, what else are we going to do if we're not doing it? And the end result is a conversion of the beginner box that doesn't exist anywhere else. You get maps that were done specifically for Foundry VTT that are reimaginings of the original map, that include things like overhead textures. So if I take Mauricio here and move her through the room, and again, we're back on V12, so you're not going to see the fancy token drag measurement. She passes underneath the walls as she moves through. This is most notable if I jump the wall here. Into this spider's cavern. Whoa, what just happened? Did I close a tab? Maybe I closed a tab. Yeah. Sorry about that. I have my push to talk assigned to control. Right. So if I go to this room, Mauricio can move, and you'll note she's actually underneath the webs that are covering the room. This was one of the key features at the time. I think it was V10. We added foreground support for maps, so you can actually have these overhead textures. And we wanted to use them, of course, but the original maps, we wanted people to have the option to just use the original maps that came with their purchased content. So we did the same preparation for both, so you can use the Foundry VTT specifically designed maps that have the textures from Forgotten Adventures and the overhead features and all of that stuff, or you can use the original maps as they were designed by Paizo with the original art from Paizo and get basically the same experience, but slightly different. So when I say we go as far as we possibly can to include all the features that we have available, this is what I mean. Redesigned maps, new sounds, sounds is a big deal. Like the beginner box, we partnered with Sirenscape, who had done sound sets for GMs who want to run with audio at their table.
Yes, I saw them at Gen Con years ago, and
Where
I
the
did
record your own sound.
yeah. Well, they had everyone go in and read these lines because it was going to be some monster that had 1,000 voices.
Yeah, we partnered with them for the beginner box and Abomination Vaults, and they were gracious enough to let us pack pre-mixed stuff from their library into the Foundry VTT system, into the module for this content. So you get stuff like some music that you can play ambient in the background when your players are exploring. You get this sound of kobolds in this room that are chittering and arguing at each other, so that as your players are moving through, when they hit this line here on this scene, it starts to creep into the background audio. The closer they get to these kobolds, the louder it gets.
Oh my gosh.
I'd like to be able to turn my audio on and share it, but it will cause feedback, so I'm not going to do that. But as the players creep closer, this audio is it's placed on the canvas. You can manipulate it as a GM. You can move it if you need to. But you have these kobolds chittering and arguing trying to break into this cage, which is a feature of this particular room in the adventure. And this is all stuff that we built in. And as someone who was responsible for setting up some of this sound, there's so many opportunities for sound-based Easter eggs. The Abomination Vault's adventure takes place surrounding a tower called the Gauntlet Tower. And it's this ruin that extends 10 floors underground. At the center is this, like, lighthouse-shaped tower thing that is this... It is itself like an artifact. And I got this tricky little Easter egg that I managed to work in. It's 10 floors, and the tower is dedicated to this god Nimbaloth, that is this, like, god of undeath, or like that kind of thing. So I created, and the letters that make up Nimbaloth's name, coincidentally or not, is 10 letters. So I set it up so that as you get deeper in the tower and you're passing through this central chamber, at the top floor where you're furthest away from the end, it just sounds like this weird pulsating ambient drone. But all I did was I slowed down this chanting sound. And when you get to the bottom floor and your players are closing in on that central chamber, you can hear it become this orchestral chanting and, like, this dark thrumming drum. And it was really fun setting that up so that GMs... I pointed out in the early adventure that GMs may notice this. I've gotten so many random messages from people who are like, my players just hit the 8th floor and they're starting to realize that the Gauntlet is chanting at them. This is amazing. There's so many ways to use the sound features of Foundry VTT to your advantage as a GM. I think it's one of the most underrated things you can do. But, like, the ambient sound placement really works wonders to just add a little bit of subtlety that gets player attention.
Oh, that was neat. I just saw on the map that there's a trap in one of those upper rooms.
Oh yeah, we added a trap marker that only the GM can see, so that they know where the dimensions of a trap floor is.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a part of the adventure includes a situation where if the players... I don't think I'm spoiling anything by revealing this. If the players are clever enough, they can bait the kobolds that are in this room into this trapped area, and someone here can actually pull the lever to trigger a trap and cause damage to the kobolds.
All right. Pull the lever, Kronk.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm actually going to need to draw this episode to a close so that I can actually go work on my map now. Because I got so many ideas.
I encourage you to take full advantage, and feel free to drop into our Discord community and ask the core how-to people how to do some of the things that I have pointed out today. Please, everyone listening, do not hesitate to come to our Discord and ask questions. It's what it's there for.
There's also a bunch of built-in tour options that I still need to go through as well.
Yep, we have a few tours to kind of instruct people. We also have these handy little tool tips, tool clips, as we call them internally, that showcase, the ways that certain items are used. I'll just shout that out real quick before you draw this to a close. You can just hover over any tool and it will give you some basic instructions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and for showing us all those different options. Obviously there's foundryvtt.com for obviously to purchase the software, and that's where the marketplace is to purchase all the official content And then, like you said, there was the Discord's probably the next biggest place to go, right?
Yeah, the Discord, which is discord.gg/Foundry VTT. And of course, our community subreddit. They are unofficial. We don't have any hand in owning it, but I am on there all the time anyway. And that's reddit.com/r/Foundry VTT.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And with that, Philip, I think it is time for me to play the beautiful bean footage.
And that's been our show. We want to thank Shane for coming on, putting up with Chris's jokes, and showing us the amazing features of things we didn't even know were there. This is great. This is going to make our game so much better now we know all this stuff is there. We want to thank you guys in chat for hanging out with us. If you like what you see, you got to check us out, boardsandswords.com/Patreon. All right, that takes you straight to our Patreon page. And you can help support us, get into the show. You get access to the Discord. There's a Patreon-only stream that Chris and I might pop into for a little bit after the show here. There's tiers where you get dice, Chris dad jokes, your favorite games. It's great. Check us out, boardsandswords.com/Patreon. It's got the link to that, /live. It's got our schedule for everything we do. And keep checking us out.
Yes, that's right. Feedback at boardsandswords.com. Let us know who we need to have on next. What's the next cool thing that we need to have on to have people talk about? Let us know. Feedback at boardsandswords.com. Also, Philip, you didn't mention with the Patreon, we actually have a RPG that we are playing only with patrons. You only get access to that if you're a patron. So that I'm running, Philip's playing in, and we're going to be kicking that off here soon. But all that information, boardsandswords.com. Next week we'll be back, or not next week, in 2 weeks we'll be back with the next episode. We're actually going to have one of the lead developers behind the Munchkin team is coming on, mainly for Philip. The rest of us will just kind of... But Philip's a huge Munchkin fan, so I tossed him a bone. And we're going to have someone from Steve Jackson Games on to tell us all about the different things of Munchkin. But in the meantime, make sure you go check out the website. And remember that every gamer has a story. And mine's going to be about editing maps for the next month or so, I think.
This one comes with Pathfinder integration.
All right. That is it for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining on the stream. Philip, I still haven't even sent out the bonus bits from last time because that's been a bit lagging. So we may pass on bonus bits this week.
We may pass. It happens.
Because it is late because we were spent so long looking at Foundry. Plus
This awesome
extra
program.
long. Yeah, exactly.
Is that a
So-
shrine to Cthulhu?
It's actually a shrine to Gozra, which is a ocean deity and nature deity, specifically in Pathfinder.
In
That's
your
not
face,
bad.
Cthulhu.
all right. I'm going to shut the stream down here. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll hopefully see you next